play with confidence. Serves it inside 50.
Inside 50, good hands.
Drilling it into centre half forward. That was end-to-end football at its best.
Back-to-back goals either side of quarter time.
They have done it, the Bulldogs!
I'd find somebody for you. There ain't no wall I will run through. In your corner when I'm ringing the bell. Come hell or high water. I'd find somebody for you.
Yes, g'day WAFL fans. Welcome one and all to another edition of the Around the WAFL podcast, your go-to WAFL podcast in season 2026. And what a big weekend it was in WAFL football with some big wins for the top contenders in the WAFL and WAFLW competitions. Also some huge stories breaking in the hours before we recorded tonight. Monday night being the time of this recording. Of course, we're releasing on Tuesday morning because of scheduling circumstances, as can be the case for some podcasts in this industry. Sometimes you have to work around a few schedules, and in this case, I'm going solo tonight. I'm on my own, which is going to be a little bit weird. Ethan Roth has been taken out of the episode, sadly, because of scheduling commitments that have prevented him from taking part in the show. But we look forward to seeing Rothy back here next Monday. You're checking us out on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel and also your preferred podcast service, whether it be Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it. You can listen to us anytime, any place, anywhere. And, of course, you can check out all our wonderful social content on Facebook and Instagram. We're proudly supported by Sullivan Logistics, your proud partners of WAFL football in 2026. Of course, Grant's Car Stereo in Morley, Front Row Screens and District Promotions down at East Vic Park. We can't do the show without all our wonderful partners. We've got a big lineup coming your way today in our recap show with yours truly, Paul Persic, 7+ commentator and host of Around the WAFL, riding solo this time around. We've got a stacked lineup that'll be coming your way as far as our guests are concerned. I spoke today with Baker Denneman from the Subiaco WAFLW side, hot off the back of their loss to South Fremantle on Sunday. And also spoke with Ross McQueen earlier today with his side finally getting into top gear with a stirring win over the West Coast Eagles by 43 points on Saturday down at Mineral Resources Park on the weekend, which was a massive win at that. A side that has really started to really gel in the last couple of weeks. The West Coast Eagles side being brought back down to earth with a thud, courtesy of a ruthless Royals side that is really starting to get into top gear. Ross McQueen will have his thoughts on the game in just a little bit. Now, some big WAFL news just in from the long weekend that was. It was a long weekend of football, although there was no public holiday. It felt like a long weekend because there were plenty of one-sided matches in both competitions. But we're going to turn our attention away from the WAFL and WAFLW scenes in just a little bit because at this time of the recording, Monday night, the AFLW draft, the pre-season draft took place, and 2 stars have been picked by the respective WA AFL clubs. And tonight we can confirm at the time of this recording, Noah McNaughton was taken at pick number 5 by the Fremantle Dockers, and she'll be taking her talents over from Shark Park over to the land of the Dockers. She'll be going from blue and white to purple, and what a star she has been, Noah McNaughton. A huge congratulations to her, Noah McNaughton, being picked up in the AFLW draft, going over to the Fremantle Dockers, taken at pick number 5. Drafted from East Fremantle. She is a real tremendous talent as a small forward, primarily a small forward over there at East Fremantle, but at times she really showcased her skill as a midfielder. Ethan Roth has really touted Noah McNaughton as a top pick, and she certainly was at number 5 for the Fremantle Football Club in this coming AFLW season. But that wasn't the only WA player that was picked up in the in the AFLW draft tonight at the time of this recording. Senna Girardi from Swan Districts also was taken at pick number 6 by the West Coast Eagles. And they've got a pretty handy get, do they? She's a very athletic, very creative midfielder forward and is going to create plenty of opportunities for her counterparts at the West Coast Eagles in 2026. And she's got real craftsmanship in her game, real creative flair, and that's going to bring the spark into the Eagles side under Daisy Pearce as they get set to build on their first ever final in the AFLW competition. So a job well done to Noah McNaughton and Senna Girardi, being the respective pickups in the AFLW pre-season draft that took place tonight at the time of this recording. Of course, this being released on a Tuesday morning due to scheduling changes as a result, which hopefully will be a one-off this week. That is some big news over the weekend in the WAFL and WAFLW. Also, we had, at the time of this recording earlier today on a Monday afternoon, a wonderful tribute to the great Dennis Cometti, one of the icons of WA football. Cut his teeth in commentary in footy, cricket. Of course, he called the WAFL throughout the 80s, even after his time as a coach at West Perth came to an end. If you remember, he served as coach from 1982 to 1984, taking the West Perth side to a semi-final in 1982 and a preliminary final that year as well, just one win away from the big dance. And Les Fong, former captain of West Perth, spoke beautifully at the memorial for Dennis Cometti. Here it is.
His first season as coach in 1982 was an outstanding one. West Perth won 15 home and away games. We finished third on the ladder and claimed a memorial second semi-final victory over East Perth, our old foe, with a record score. Sadly, we fell in the preliminary final against Claremont Football Club. It was so close to being a premiership year for Dennis, as he was accustomed to. Though finals eluded us for the following seasons, I firmly believe a coach can only work with the squad he has around him, and no blame should ever rest at Dennis's feet.
Great tribute there for Dennis Cometti, courtesy of Les Fong, and also the Lord Mayor and former West Perth player Basil Zemplis. Here's what he had to say.
Den was the main event in any stadium anywhere in the world. He was the heart of the lion in the heart of Dixie. When Dennis spoke, the stadium held its breath. He was rare gold, the best kind of gold.
Well spoken, Les and Basil. Great tribute to a doyen of WA football media and one of the greats in WAFL, of course, even after he retired as an AFL commentator. He spent some time in the WAFL in the 7 commentary team led by the likes of Mark Reddings and co, and Dennis would offer some great insight in the game in WAFLW level. I was lucky enough to meet him in the 2020 WAFL Grand Final at Fremantle Oval, and he still had that trademark grin. You could always see that he's got a grin from ear to ear and sense that the day was about to be brightened no matter which club you support. It was a wonderful memorial service over there at Optus Stadium. Now let's get right down to business here on Around the WAFL. Paul Persic with you, riding solo today. Ethan Roth are not able to make this episode because of a scheduling conflict, but we do send all our best wishes to Rothy, and he'll be back next Monday for our usual recap show slot. East Perth, they finally got into top gear over the weekend with that 43-point win over the West Coast Eagles. And earlier today, at the time of the recording, I spoke with Ross McQueen about how his side really has started to get out of that lull they were in the first 4 weeks with a couple of wins and a couple of close losses to Subiaco and East Fremantle, and how they finally were able to push the button against the West Coast Eagles through their star-studded midfield and the spark of Hamish Brayshaw, who came back a couple of weeks ago, and he has picked up where he left off in the last games of 2025, and the creative flair of Ben Middleton in the forward line. He kicked 4 goals in that game. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. But we're going to delve now with Ross McQueen. I spoke with him earlier at the time of the recording to give his thoughts on a great win by the Royals over the West Coast Eagles. East Perth coach Ross McQueen has joined us here on Around the WAFL. Ross, thanks for your time. Congrats on the win. Did you feel that after the first month of the season? Do you feel that Saturday was really the first time the Royals had hit top gear this season? Everything just gelled at both ends of the ground?
There was definitely a positive result, Paul, and we've been lacking a bit of consistency across the year so far, and probably the weekend was a bit like that. If you look, especially late in the game, I think West Coast really dominated the last quarter. So still looking for that consistency, but it was nice to we had a really positive start. We were able to back that into 2 or 3 really strong quarters, and still searching for that perfect game, if you like. But no, much happy with the way we went about it, and it was nice to get a good result.
Scotty Jones had a really big battle with Matty Flynn in the ruck. He finished with another 30 hit-out game. His follow-up work again was solid. Scotty Jones, despite having a hand injury in the pre-season, he's really got himself back into a match fitness very quickly once again. He's a very determined player, isn't he? And it's good to have a ruckman like him in your best 23.
Definitely. Scott's been great for a number of years, but in particular the last 2 or 3 years for our club. A really strong competition on the weekend. Like Matt Flynn's been going really well. And I thought it was really important that Scott was in there and, at least matched Matt's form. And I think Scott did that, and I think he's really starting to build into the year, which is great for the club and great for Scott.
What I was most impressed with was the creative opportunities that East Perth created for their forwards. I mean, Mitch Schofield, he was magnificent. So too Ben Middleton. He spent some time in the ruck inside the forward 50. And, that was always going to be a key for East Perth in creating their opportunities inside that forward 50 through the likes of Middleton and early in the game, Seb Kuek.
Yeah, no, it was good. That's on the back of some good work around, through that midfield area and getting a bit of forward momentum early. It's always a hard game if you've got to transition everything from the back half to the front half all day. But no, got some positive ball movement or positive contest in the middle part of the ground, which allows your mids to be more proactive and get in a position. So, and we made some better decisions. Wasn't perfect, but no, the boys worked really hard to create an option, and it was good that we actually used some of them.
It was a really big test before the game because obviously the Eagles with 16 listed AFL players. Did you feel with that amount of AFL players on the WAFL list for the Eagles, were you expecting more of a real challenging tussle?
Oh, they've been in very good form. Like, they've won their last three and really started to build some momentum in that regard. Some talented young guys on their list and some experienced guys too, like Tommy Woods-Bourne and Caleb Datson and Sasha Kerner and Cal Jemison. So they've really been building a really good squad, which is great for the competition and great for them. And we fully expected a really strong contest, and getting a good start really helped us in terms of putting an imprint on the game.
Hasn't Hamish Brayshaw got on the saddle real quickly? He missed the first 3 weeks with a calf complaint, and now all of a sudden he's really torn it up in the 2 weeks since he's come back. Another big game from Hammer, 33 possessions, including 8 great marks in midfield. Gee, he's really set the world on fire in the last 2 weeks. You put him in any position, and no matter what trouble that he has had, whether it be calf or anywhere, he just gets back there with great ferocity, doesn't he? He's one of the great leaders of the competition.
Very much so. He's been terrific for our football club the number of years now. Now he came across, and that's a reason why he's won a Sandover medal and a club best and fairest and all those types of things. But he's a professional guy. When he's on footy, he's all about footy, and we love him for that. And no, he's been great to have him back the last couple of weeks with his leadership, and that just allows other guys to play a bit more of their role as well, knowing that Hamish is there and doing what he does so well.
Darcy Craven's made his way back home to East Perth after missing out on a real chance at the Brisbane Lions. 2 goals from 18 disposals. Gee, he played a great role, not only as a midfielder, but also as one of those small key forwards that can really add some scoreboard pressure. He's been quite impressive.
Yeah, no, he's had a real positive return to the club. Really happy for Darcy. Obviously disappointed that things didn't work out at Brisbane. You go to the strongest club in the land, so I'm pretty sure he learnt plenty, but he wasn't able to force his way into their side and stay on the list. But we're hopeful that his footy keeps getting better. He's not very old, Darcy. Like I said, he'd only played, I think, 3 league games for us before he left, and he had a couple 18 months at Brisbane, and now he's back. So he's very young in his journey. But he's been started the year really strongly, and we hope he can keep getting better.
Now, you've got Peel Thunder coming up on Saturday, the last before the state game bye. We'll get into the Peel game in just a little bit, but of course, I can hear from the big beeps on the freeway at this time of the recording. State training taking place at the time of this recording. Big session for the boys in the WA squad, especially in the next fortnight leading into the big encounter against South Australia. What's your role with the team?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I'm going to coach the forwards, which is, also good fun and things like that, and a great opportunity and a real honour to be part of the program. So we're just currently trying to weave our way down on the freeway. There's been an accident. So this, what I thought was going to be a 30, 35-minute drive so far, it's going to look like around 55 minutes. So, but it's what it is. We'll just take our time. Good group of young men. We got together last Monday and had a chat. The coaches and things, we'll have a meeting at 6 o'clock tonight, and then we'll go out in the training track and get some boys moving around. So, really excited about what the next couple of weeks will bring for their state boys.
It is a good squad, no doubt about that. Was selected just a couple of weeks ago as they hunt for back-to-back wins against South Australia. But before that big game, you've got Peel Thunder as your next assignment, who had a big win over West Perth on the weekend. They've got a really stacked unit, and it's easy to say because obviously with the Dockers listed players that are in the side, but gee, they've got a good balance of interstate recruiters, especially Lockie Tardrew, who tore it up on the weekend. Going to be a big game, this one.
Yeah, another really good challenge for us. Yeah, they're always very, very strong, and Reedy coaches them very well. They picked up Lockie Tardrew, but they're young blokes, Jack Sears and Scott Touria, and these sort of blokes. Great servants of their club now. They're only young, but they've been terrific. They're premiership players, Ben Hancock and the like. So all local guys. No, it'll be a really good challenge for our guys, and we look forward to that. We'll look at the tape tonight when I get home after state training, and then we'll train tomorrow night with the thought of what can we do, and we'll look forward to taking him on at Sullivan Logistics this Saturday.
Ross, congrats on the win on the weekend. You're flying once again in 2026. All the best against Peel Thunder on the weekend, and I hope you get out of the freeway safely. All the best, mate.
Cheers. Thanks very much, Paul.
Ross McQueen there, the coach of the East Perth Football Club, speaking a little earlier today at the time of the recording. And, of course, on his way to state training, you might have heard those beeps there, slowly travelling down the Mitchell Freeway southbound Coburn for a state training that took place as well at the time of this recording to see who is going to make that final cut of 23 for the big state game against South Australia, which you can see live on Channel 7. There it is, Saturday, May 16th at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, Western Australia and South Australia. Can the mighty Sandgropers go back-to-back against the Crow Eaters? Well, that'll be something we shall have to wait and see. We'll take a break, and when we do come back, we'll give you a recap of all the 5 games that were played in round 5 of the Sullivan Logistics WAFL Premiership season. And hey, if you want to go down to a WAFL game, it's a great experience. Just ask Hayden Ballantyne.
Take it from me, great things happen at the WAFL.
Ballantyne rides and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick-to-kick at every break. The WAFL is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the WAFL on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate.
On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate, from a simple upgrade to complete custom systems. Stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
Welcome back to Around the WAFL, your go-to WAFL podcast of season 2026. Paul Persic with you in the Hen House Studios in Osborne Park, back at our usual home after we took the show on the road on Thursday with Den and Melrose. Big thanks to Den and Melrose for filling in on the Thursday, and thanks to the West Coast Eagles for allowing us to use Mineral Resources Park on location on the road for a Thursday night. First time that we're taking the show on the road. Won't be the last time, you can bet that. So stay tuned on the Facebook and Instagram pages of Around the WAFL to see where we're going to be on the road next. Speaking of Thursday, look for it. Preview show coming up on locations back. We're heading down to Claremont, and we're going to be chatting with the Claremont WAFLW coach, Jack Schwartz, on how he can keep a level head in the midst of a great dynasty as Claremont coach with 3 premierships in 4 years, and how they're looking for a three-peat in 2025 and their continued improvement since their round 1 loss to Swan Districts, and how they've used that result as the measuring stick for it not to be repeated again as a side that has very high standards about its football. Jack Schwartz on our Thursday preview show. Make sure you check it out on YouTube and your podcast service. Round 5 of the Sullivan Logistics WAFL Premiership season was run and won over the weekend, and we're going to start off at Lane Group Stadium with Peel Thunder really kicking the sweep over a disappointing West Perth, 21-9, 135 to 10-4, 64. Good heavens, a massive win for Peel Thunder by 71 points. Now, Peel Thunder, they're just outside the top 5 as a result of this win, but they are getting there. They build that win off a great start in the first quarter. They kicked 6 goals to 2 in that opening term, and gee, they have recruited well. And again, it's further proof in the pudding about how Adam Reid and his recruiting staff have really delved into some great talent interstate, in particular Lockie Tardrew. Gee, he's been impressive coming over from country Victoria, over 100 games in the VFL as well, and he's really showing his VFL experience is worthwhile over there at Peel Thunder with 29 disposals and 4 marks. That engine room really fired over there for Peel Thunder at Lane Group Stadium, using their home ground advantage very well. Their run and carry through the midfield was brilliant. Bailey Banfield, sensational. Hugh Davies with 21 disposals along with Bailey. And Toby Wan, didn't he fire or what? Wasn't he impressive as a midfielder forward, kicking 3 goals, tremendous creativity in that forward half appeal, and also the likes of Nathan O'Driscoll, impressive with 28. His running carry also was a great driving force for Peel Thunder in that win. Scotty Tuia, he kicked another bag of 3 goals and added 20 disposals as well. While for West Perth, it's a familiar story. They're getting their experienced players back in the side. They had the likes of Aaron Black, Luke Meadows, and also Shane Nelson come back. Shane Nelson had been dropped for a couple of games in the reserves, so too Luke Meadows and Aaron Black. Tyler Keitel, he was heavily relied on again, 13 marks and 23 disposals, kicking a couple of goals to boot as well. But for West Perth, nothing is really gelling, I'm afraid to say, because West Perth, they've often relied on their experienced campaigners to get it done, and they're not getting a lot out of their young players at the present time. There's not a lot going well over there at West Perth, and to sum it up, Connor West ended the day with a broken nose and an apparent break to his cheekbone. He only had the 7 disposals before he was taken off the ground early. That might be 1 or 2 weeks on the sidelines, and that is including that state game bye on May 16. Peel Thunder, the way they won the game was how they got it out of the centre. It was really copybook stuff from their usual suspects. So Driscoll, Bryce, Tardrew, Davies in the back line. He spent a bit of time up the ground. And Jaron Carr also continues to impress. Adam Reid would be very happy with his side's performance, and one that they really needed, a win of that nature after losing 2 close games by a single point. I mentioned in the preview show with Denham Melrose that I had a bit of doubt about Peel Thunder's brand of football. It hadn't really been that flash. They didn't have an all-out attacking style, regardless of the quality of the opposition. And the list that they have got, if you have to make use of a great list, a stacked list with about 13 or 14 AFL-listed players, make sure you use them to the best of their roles. Utilise them correctly. And that's what Adam Reid and the players did. And they did it to great effect as well. 12 goals to 3 in the first half. And then they kicked another 9 for the game. It was really sensational stuff by Peel Thunder. 21-9, their best score of the year so far. And for West Perth, their 5th consecutive loss. And early alarm bells are starting to ring over there at West Perth. They are 0-5 to start the season, but it is still early in the season. When will they win a game? Well, some are saying Swan Districts again. Some are saying East Fremantle later in the season. But honestly, I've got no clue as to when West Perth will win a game, or if West Perth will win a game, because they are down the low ebb of the ladder, and I'm afraid to say, with the way they've been performing, I think that's where they belong at the moment, because they've got a lot of ageing champions in their side, and they're not getting a lot out of some of their younger players. I mean, think about it. Zahn Robus, he's 24 years of age, and he's got tremendous potential. It should have been used by the club earlier, and they need to use it very quickly. They're going to have to get every bit out of Zahn Robus before it's too late, and he eventually ends up, like Noah Pecoraro, having to battle through an arthritis complaint at 28, which is extremely unfortunate. But let's just hope that they get some more out of Zahn Robers and he can get more prominent as a midfielder and a tall defender as well. He was well blanketed by the Peel Thunder forwards in that game. But the Thunder, they are humming along. 71-point winners over West Perth, bouncing back after 2 straight losses by a point. They were very impressive. And so was East Perth. I spoke with Ross McQueen a bit about the game earlier in the show, but East Perth just too good in the end for the West Coast Eagles, bringing their 3-game winning run to a halt. 16-12, 108 to 9-11, 65. Now, East Perth, okay, they took their foot off the gas just a little bit in that last quarter. They kicked 2 goals to 4 in the final term. They gave a little bit of respectability to the West Coast Eagles, so we'll give them credit where credit is due. But who knows? This list, with their flexibility and their ins and outs and their turnover, okay, it really had its dividends early, but And they knew they were going to be in for a really big test. And they got it in the form of East Perth. That start in the first quarter, I was on the call with Terry McDonald on 7+, and we often highlighted that the Eagles were prone to turning the ball over, going out of the centre into attack. They didn't find a lot of options up forward until really the final quarter, because that forward line looked very fragmented. I thought the back line was absolutely tremendous, led by the likes of William Cassidy. He didn't have a lot of the football, but just the way he effectively disposed of it going to midfield was also tremendous. Brodie Delaney laid in along with Ethan Regan, who was laid in for the two late outs that were for East Perth, Kai Wilcox and Xavier Milner. They were tremendous. And when you have quiet games from the likes of Amajuri, Medhat, and also William Cassidy, but you've also got big games from Hamish Brayshaw, Mitch Schofield, Angus Scott and Scotty Jones. That shows you how much depth East Perth have got on their side. That's a tremendous list that East Perth have got in their side. A good balance of, mid to late 20-year-olds, a couple of 18, 19-year-olds in there that have almost played every game in season 2026. And James Sturrock's game, he's often under the radar, James Sturrock, but the way he marked the ball in the centre and in defence was tremendous. Hamish Brayshaw, he really has regained his spark in his 2 weeks since coming back from that calf complaint that ruled him out of the first 3 games. He's showing no signs of that calf complaint whatsoever. His delivery and his leadership and his physicality around the contest was tremendous. But also I want to highlight Ben Middleton. Ben Middleton's presence in the forward line was very encouraging for East Perth. When Sebit Kwek left off after his strong start in the first quarter, getting to those vital forward line marks early on in the game, Ben Middleton just followed up his great work. Not necessarily just kicking the goals. I mean, he kicked 4 goals, 1 in that game, but just the way he was able to create those opportunities in front of goal. He was credited with assisting about 4 or 5, as well as kicking 4 of his own, especially a couple of others to Tom Medhat and Mitch Schofield, who went on and kicked 3 goals. But his role as being that opportunistic creator in that forward 50 really does show how versatile of a player he is inside that forward 50. So he was impressive. We talked about Mitch Schofield, his marking prowess in the forward line, nothing short of brilliant. Bit shoddy in goal-kicking accuracy early on, but he was able to get himself right back on target and kick 3 great goals. For the West Coast Eagles, Matt Flynn really held his own in the end when you're looking at how he controlled the ruck battle early on against Scott Jones, but didn't really get the better of him as far as winning the overall battle in the game. He really got outclassed in the second half in the end by Scotty Jones, but his 34 hitouts really show that he is staking his claim in the AFL side, and there's going to be a lot of players that are really staking their claim for that, although their performance as a collective wasn't really good. They turned the ball over too many times inside that forward 50, and they only had 4 less inside 50s, but, that doesn't really tell the story, doesn't it? It's just their turnover from the centre. Their inability to, dominate those centre clearances really hurt the Eagles badly, and I'm afraid to say the margin really reflected on how the game was controlled. When you think about it, the Eagles had 285 disposals. Now, that is often alarming against any side, to East Perth's 357. So East Perth had total domination of the game, putting aside, just taking their foot off in that last quarter. But in the end, East Perth, as they needed to, they dominated the game quite handsomely, 43-point winners over the West Coast Eagles. And how good are those Tigers? That's where we're going to go to next. Claremont and Swan Districts down at Revo Fitness Stadium. And the Tigers, 5 wins out of 5. They are certainly playing like premiership favourites early on. 39-point winners, 101-62. Swan Districts, they've been competitive, but this was really the first time this season that they have really been hammered. When you're looking at how Claremont controlled the game, 375 to 302 disposals. But the inside 50s, by gee, they were dominant, Claremont, in getting the ball into their forward 50, 59 to 38. And when you're looking at inside domination, that is really a pretty picture if you're a Claremont fan. Callan England, impressive with 35 disposals. Anthony Davis down the back line, 10 marks to go with his 23. Ollie Eastland, just doing standard Ollie Eastland things, dominating the ruck. His follow-up work is brilliant. The way he controls possession. 45 hitouts and 22, magnificent. And amongst the goals, Jaden Hunter again continues to show why he's that number 1 option in the forward line. Spent some time at Perth, got delisted by Essendon after he got picked up in the draft, didn't get his real opportunity at the Bombers, and now he's made his way back to Claremont, a team that has got that great ambition to win a premiership, and they've got the list that they have. Really is a testament to his hard work. Zach Mainwaring got a goal from his 18 disposals. He again was very effective out of the middle. And you've also got some of your youngsters, Samson Jennings-Hopkins, who's come over from Colts and has really made a name for himself early at the Tigers, 15 disposals. And Swan Districts, they didn't really get a lot out of Turner and C-Pro. Okay, they had, low to high 20 disposals, which is around their average, but they didn't really get a lot out of this game, Swan Districts, because they were just outclassed. They were outclassed in many areas of the game. Lee Coleman, it was good to see him back, however, for his first league game of the season. Only 4 touches, but did kick 2 goals from those 4, so a 50% success rate inside the forward 50. But they had few positives, I'm afraid to say, Swan Districts. And Hinchcliffe was well below his best. So was Josh Cipro in comparison to that 1-point loss to the West Coast Eagles, in which they really challenged after a poor start. This time they were able to stay in touch with Claremont till at least half-time. The margin was only 3 goals at the main break, but after that, they only kicked another 5 for the game. And Claremont, they just went on a rampage. They kicked 8 after half-time, and a 39-point margin, I think, really flattered Swan Districts in the end because of how Claremont were able to control the game, and Swan Districts still kicked a couple of goals each quarter, but just the way Claremont controlled the footy and worked it into their forward line really was textbook stuff. Ash Prescott would be very, very pleased with that team performance by the Tigers, and they're 5 out of 5. Very, very impressive start to the season. Over to the Good Grocer Park. And Perth, well, they have good memories of that ground. They won that elimination final against East Fremantle last year. And they repeated the dose, didn't they? 31-point winners over East Fremantle, 11-12, 78 to 7-5, 47. And that win puts them back in the top 3, as they need to, especially after a couple of close results where the games didn't really go their way. They got a real pasting from South Fremantle early on in the season. They just missed out last week against East Perth, but they really got it done against a Sharks side that, is still a transitional side. And what I mean by that is that they've lost a lot of experienced players. They're still bringing in some young kids. Billy Monahan has got a lot of faith in these young players, and they want to get the best out of them. But, they really had a tough outing. There was a lot of turnovers. The skills from both sides wasn't too flash for all of the game, but when you're looking at how Perth took those opportunities, really was impressive. We highlighted the Eagles-East Perth game and the number of disposals. East Fremantle, 298. When you're getting below 300 disposals, you've had yourself a rough day as a collective unit. 7-5-47. The forward line was starved of opportunities, courtesy of a hard-working Perth backline led by Charlie Dean, who's really taken to the waffle like a duck to water. 9 marks to go with his 21 disposals, and what space he created for himself in that backline. He really tempted East Fremantle to go with those long kicks inside 50. And they didn't really work in the end. Charlie Dean, he was right there for the picking, whether in the pocket or deep in the corridor inside that forward 50. Charlie Dean, he was there. And he was magnificent. Josh Edwards, he was touted by many pundits to have a big game. And he did just that with 45 hitouts. So Charlie Constable, again impressive with 38 touches. 2 big returns boosted the Perth Demons side. Lockie Payton, he went on and kicked 3 goals. And Brendan Parfitt, who came back after a hand injury that sidelined him from that Anzac Day game against East Perth. He was brilliant. Back to his best. 31 disposals. For East Fremantle, they didn't get a lot out of Griffin Vladic, despite him kicking 3 goals, but he kicked almost half of the Sharks' goals in the end. Kyle Baskerville, 23, and Luke Strananica with 36 hitouts, but he was well beaten in that contest in the end by Edwards. He had only 39 touches, and there was no doubt that it was going to be a very difficult task in the end for East Fremantle to really get this one in the bag, because there was going to be a real big point of conjecture for East Fremantle to see whether their young side can really match it with the experience of Perth and what they can bring to the table. Sadly, they didn't. And they weren't able to get the better of the Demons in that contest. And if they were to beat Perth, if they were to beat Perth, then it would have been quite a handy result. But as it turns out, they did not. But a big win to Perth, 11-12, 78 to 7-5, 47. And what a big result that certainly was for the Demons. That puts them into the top 3. And then we go to the day-nighter, the twilight game, to finish off the round. Subiaco and South Fremantle. And what a win that was for the Bulldogs. They got out of jail in the end. They got home by 3 points, 11-6, 72 to 10-9, 69. And for South Fremantle, they're back in second place as a result of this win. But it wasn't pretty. It was not a pretty game. Very tough. And the 4-10 fixture, I think, really it solidified why that slot wasn't really the best at a time. Because I was listening to a couple of radio programs and talking about that 4-10 fixture. There wasn't a lot of activations at the ground. It was very tough to, see teams accommodated that way in that slot if there's not going to be plenty of activations, and it was a disappointing crowd in the end. But South Fremantle, they needed to get that one done, and that's exactly what they did. They trailed by a point at half-time, but it was that third quarter to me that really told where the momentum was going. South Fremantle in particular really looked good in that third quarter. 2 goals to 2 behinds in the end, and they were without Matty Parker, who, as it turned out, after he was a late withdrawal for the game against Claremont, he's still suffering problems with his hamstring. It's going to be another couple of weeks, so he'll likely be back after the state game bye. So that means he'll miss that game against the West Coast Eagles, and that would be a real big blow to the South Fremantle side. But they did have the likes of Chad Pearson manning that back line very well, just to ease the workload on that South Fremantle midfield. Jake Florenka in game 100 for South Fremantle was magnificent. 35 disposals to go with his goal. Laid down a couple of good tackles as well. Ethan Hughes down the back line. He supported Chad Pearson very well indeed. 9 marks and 20 disposals. Jordan Bollineau, he's found himself a nice role as that key forward in place of the retiring Strom, and also Hayden Schloit, who plays that role as that small key forward. But Jordan Bollineau's really found himself at home in that Bulldogs forward 50, kicked 3 goals straight and took 7 great marks in the end as well. But think about this. They had 50 more possessions, well, almost 50 possessions in that game, and won by only 3 points. And again, that goes to show how much Subiaco rely on their tackling. They've improved a lot under Jared Schofield, and we talked about last week with Denham Melrose on our preview show that if you get around 80 to 95 tackles, you're going to win your game. Well, they fell short of that mark. They had 75, but Marlon Corbett, he really led that on-ball setup for Subiaco. 10 tackles to go with his 28 disposals. Liam Hickmott was brilliant, 26. Stephen Gyro, 31. And Jordan Staden, he got hurt in the early minutes of that game, and that was a massive blow. But Fraser Rickson, his evolution as the number 1 ruckman for Subiaco again was absolutely impressive. Think about it. He missed most of last year and the under-18 carnival, with a broken leg. And he was back in full force. There's no doubt about that. Also, a big shout-out as well. Another positive performance for South Fremantle was Wes Love, a former Claremont player, and he got picked out of the Ammos, where he was playing with former Claremont champion Jai Bolton, and he's fitted himself very nicely into the South Fremantle side as their number 1 ruckman, with Hamish Free still sidelined for another 2 months yet with syndesmosis issue in his ankle. But the ruckman for South Fremantle, Wes Love, brilliant. Chase Bourne followed up his good work, took 10 good marks in defence. The likes of Bletchenden, Jones and Winder all were good considering how scrappy the game was. In the end, South Fremantle out of jail in the end. They won by 3 points and are right on track as premiership favourites. Let's go to the ladder after 5 rounds of competition in the WAFL. And as you can see, Claremont, the only unbeaten side with 5 wins out of 5. They have started off very strongly indeed. South Fremantle, they're in 2nd place. Perth in 3rd. East Perth in 4th. And the West Coast Eagles, despite the loss, are still in the 5 with 3 wins. They are looking really good at the present time. 12 points they are. Just ahead of Peel Thunder, who are a game behind. They're starting to threaten for a spot in the 5. Then comes Subiaco, East Fremantle, Swan Districts, and West Perth remain winless after 5 rounds of competition. Okay, time for the votes. Now, even though Rothy is still not here for this episode, it does feel a little bit unusual sitting on my own. No Rothy to your right. We're going to still cast the votes anyway, because we always endeavour, we always push on. That's how we go down to business. Round 5, the Player of the Year votes. 1 vote I gave to Jake Florenka from South Fremantle in his 100th game for the Bulldogs. Very impressive out of midfield. He really lived up to the occasion and showed why he is the premier midfielder for the Bulldogs. 2 votes, Ben Middleton, for his creativity in that forward line and the opportunities he made for the likes of Schofield himself and also Seb Kouek in that first quarter. Callan England, over 30 disposals for Claremont. He gets the 3 votes. Magnificent performance from the 2024 Sandover medalist. Lockie Tardrew from Peel Thunder. Now, he is a midfielder that has proven to be very handy for the 2024 Premiers. 100 games of VFL experience under his belt, and the way he delivers the ball into attack and his running carry through the corridor, nothing short of impressive. He really ran roughshod over West Perth's midfield on Saturday. But the 5 votes, the top gun for the week is Charlie Dean of the Perth Football Club. He gets the 5 votes. His work in the back line against East Fremantle really was the key in holding East Fremantle to 7 goals in that win over the Sharks at Good Grocer Park on Saturday. So those are the votes right there. Florenka with 1, Middleton with 2, England with 3, Tardru with 4, and Charlie Dean with the big 5 as this week's Waffle Top Gun. The leaderboard as it stands after 5 rounds of competition, well, it is still pretty tight at the top as you would expect. 6 players with 5 votes at the present time. It's led by Bailey Rogers because he polled twice during the season. Of course, ahead of Charlie Dean, Hamish Brayshaw, Jarvis Pena, and Mitch Schofield and Stephen Gyro each on 5 votes as well. And there you see the remaining 4 on 4, Lockie Tardru, Tom Gross, Josh Edwards, and the injured Matthew Parker. We'll clear a break, and when we do come back here on Around the Waffle, it is we're going to delve into some of the results from the Colts over the weekend. Usually Rothy would do that, but I'll fill in that job very nicely for him to make sure you have your dose of Waffle Colts information, including a first-up win for Peel Thunder, their first in 2 years. And we'll also be hearing a chat from Baker Denneman, the Subiaco WAFLW coach, off the back of their 16-point loss to South Fremantle. It's all thanks to Front Row Screens, District Promotions, Grants Car Stereo, and Sullivan Logistics, proud partners of Waffle Football in 2026. And in the words of the great Freo legend Hayden Ballantyne, who of course played for Peel in the WAFL, getting to a Waffle game is a great experience.
Take it from me, great things happen at the Waffle.
Ballantyne rides and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick-to-kick at every break. The Waffle is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the Waffle on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the Waffle, your go-to waffle podcast in 2026. Paul Persic with you, running solo today. Ethan Roth, sadly, not able to make our episode at the time of this recording, but we will see him back here next week when we look at the last round of matches before the state game bye. By the way, that state game, there it is, May 16th. At Sullivan Logistics Stadium at Leederville, West Australia, taking on South Australia. Of course, we've got a triple header that day. We've got a great talent showcase to kick off the day. The under-18s taking on the under-20s. Then it's the women's state game, the WAFLW against the SANFLW. And then, of course, at 3:20, it is the big one. No doubt about that. The WAFL up against the SANFL. Both games, well, they're big in their own right. But, of course, there's always that great tribal passion that both states have, and we're certainly looking forward to both those big state games as well as the talent showcase to kick off the day. Tickets, they're just $10, and we want a big crowd over there at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. Make sure you fill the ground up, as many fans as possible, and hope it's a good day of football as well next Saturday, May 16th, over at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, WA and South Australia. We shall push on with the Colts scores and results from the weekend in Rothy's absence. What about Friday night? How about this for a sensational result? Peel Thunder, their first win since round 15, 2024. No Mitch Sterling, no worries for Peel Thunder. They got it done by 6 points in a thriller over West Perth. And what a game that one was. Peel Thunder, they were magnificent in the first half. 6-3 to 1-5 at halftime. And then all of a sudden, West Perth started to show up. They kicked 5 goals to 2. And then a couple of missed chances in front of goal from both sides. They let each other into the game. But they were magnificent, Peel Thunder. Very gallant and very desperate as they needed to be. Edwards and McCouch, they combined in the ruck for 46 hitouts. Very impressive indeed. While for West Perth, Luca Boxar with 23 touches. And some big chances up forward going begging from the likes of Sewell and Harris. They missed several chances in front of goal, which unfortunately cost them dear. Then the next morning, 3 games were played on the Saturday. Claremont and Swan District started us off. And Claremont, their inaccuracy in front of goal didn't hurt them though. They had almost half of Swan District's inside 50s, 50 to 29. And Claremont would go on and win by 21 points in the end, 10-21 to 9-6. Sam Gallagher, outstanding with 12 tackles and 19 disposals. Charlie Bredbrook, he was also a threat in the forward 50 with 12 marks, but kicked 2 goals, 5. The less said about his missed chances, the better. But his presence in the forward line, just brilliant when it needed. And also Reagan Christensen, taking 8 good marks and kicking a goal as well. But he, like Bedbrook, having the yips in front of goal. And for Swan District's Jai DeBono, he too was brilliant with 24. Cooper Dudfield was their best option up forward with 3, and a couple of goals each to Yarran and Winmar. Also down at Goodgrosser Park on the Saturday morning, it was a great win to East Fremantle. They held Perth just 2 goals throughout the morning, 11-13-79 to 2 goals, 5. And wasn't it a brilliant performance by Isaac Boothie with 3 goals from 10 disposals, and leading the charge, Josh Nathan, great run of form. He's been on with 30, and Alexander Powderley in the ruck was brilliant with 26 hitouts to go with his 27 disposals. Almost a perfect game, you would say, for Alexander Powderley and for Perth. And there weren't much positives to take out of this game from a Perth point of view. Alex Richardson, he tried hard to his credit. Flynn Tomasini also tried hard with 23, but sadly, nothing much to write home about as far as Perth were concerned. And then the final game of the weekend in Colts football, wasn't East Fremantle very good? No doubt about that. 12-13 to 7-10, and a 33-point win to the Bulldogs over the Lions. And the South Fremantle side sitting along quite comfortably at the top of the ladder, and they deserve to be after their grand final loss last year. The passion certainly is burning over there at Bulldog Land. Matty Rogers doing a wonderful job so far as South Fremantle Colts coach, seeing them undefeated after 5 rounds of competition. Chance Vanderhoek, exceptional with 24. Chase Parsons, he's going to be talked about for a while with 20. Riley Stannard likewise with 20. And even without Lucas Robinson, who's now in the league side, the Colts side still has strong depth everywhere, all around the ground. So great job by South Fremantle over Subiaco, who were a bit disappointing. They didn't get a lot out of their top players, and sadly, that was their undoing. Where does that leave the Colts ladder? Well, Bulldogs are undefeated, 5 wins out of 5. East Fremantle in second. How about that for a WA Day derby very soon? It's coming up. And imagine the 2 Colts teams, South Fremantle and East Fremantle, in a People's Derby on WA Day. Under the lights too. Wouldn't that be a great sight? Claremont in 3rd place, and then comes East Perth and Perth, making up the 5. West Perth 1 win behind. So our Subiaco and Peel Thunder on the winners board at last, and Swan Districts remain winless after the first 5 rounds of competition. Next week, all 4 games are on Saturday, starting off with the only morning match of the round, Swan Districts and East Fremantle at Steel Blue Oval. I'll be on the call for this one on Saturday morning. Then 3 night games to finish it off. Perth take on Claremont at Lathlane. East Perth play Peel Thunder at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. And to finish it off, West Perth play Subiaco at HIF Health Insurance Oval. Those games, all Colts games, are live, free and in full on the official WAFL YouTube channel. Make sure you check them out during the broadcast on Saturday. Now let's get to some WAFLW. Round 6 is in the books, and for Subiaco, this was a bit of a setback, unfortunately. Their 16-point loss to South Fremantle. Not a lot really clicked for the Lions side. The thoughts of Baker Denneman will certainly show why, and no doubt that Baker Denneman would want his side to bounce back against West Perth on Saturday morning, as they need to, because despite them being in the top four, they're only in there on percentage, and they've got 3 wins on the board, but nothing has really clicked as far as Subiaco are concerned. But they do have some positives to take out of this loss, as illustrated by the chat I had with Baker Denneman earlier today before the time of this recording. Here is my chat with Baker Denneman, the Subiaco WAFLW coach, off the back of their loss to South Fremantle. Baker Denneman, the coach of Subiaco, thanks for joining us here on Around the Waffle. Tough afternoon out at Leederville on Sunday against the Bulldogs. Did that third quarter make the challenge tougher, considering how the game was played?
Yeah, I think the game as a whole was probably a contest, and I think it showed 2 really good sides going at it, which is what we're all about in the WAFLW. And I thought we actually started the third quarter really well, and they just probably gained momentum back through the middle part of the quarter through their contest method, and just some fundamental errors of our own at crucial times just gave them opportunity, and to their credit, they're a good team and they took it. So it made it a little bit challenging, but close enough within respect to the game itself. So we'll take the learnings from that and move forward.
Were you surprised on how the game was played? Because both your side and South Fremantle have got some good running players through the centre corridor, and it felt like there was a lot of contested footy, and the Lions, who were behind for much of the afternoon, really had to amplify the pressure through the likes of Annabelle Johnson, Paige Shepherd, Petrevski and Lisa Steen.
Yeah, I think we put a big emphasis on the pressure and the attack at the contest. We feel like that's a really strong point of South Fremantle's, and to their credit, they did it well again. And we thought we turned it up really nicely. We just couldn't get the game going our way when we had the ball in hand. I thought we just lacked through our decision-making and execution at crucial moments, like I just said. But in terms of the contest itself, like, we were pretty happy with where the game sat. We just needed to be better with our ball use going forward. That was all.
Now, me and Ethan, who's sadly not here tonight, highlighted the number one concern since Olivia Wolmerans went into the AFLW system 6 months ago was a key forward for the Lions. You've got plenty of great options in that forward line, but you know we talked about how the Subiaco side doesn't have that number one key forward. Who you've been looking at as that number one key forward in the Lions side for the rest of 2026?
Yeah, it's always challenging when you've got to try and fill the void of someone of the calibre of Olivia Wolmarans, and it was great to have her back on deck yesterday to view the game. For us, I think we're still in really good shape. We've got Courtney Lindgren, who's slowly starting to show what she's capable of in terms of her abilities ahead of the ball, and Katie Smith's come in from North Beach and had some influence throughout the season. And I think the one that gets forgotten a little bit about is Marley Kelman, who's playing down back for us at the moment, but we know her capabilities ahead of the ball as a young player, so we're just trying to develop her game as a well-rounded individual. And it's something that gets talked about a lot in terms of the external factors around it all, but we're happy with the versatility that we've got. It means they have to defend our forward line as a unit as opposed just to focusing on one player. So although we'd love a standout, we're happy with rotating a few players through there, knowing how crafty our smalls can be at the same time.
On the subject of standouts, Paige Shepherd in particular, she was a strong force in midfield with 31 disposals, had plenty of carry from the centre. How have you rated her season so far, and how good has she played her role as that number one key midfielder in tandem with a good engine room along the likes of Steen and Petrevski?
Yeah, she's flying at the moment. I think, we're very lucky to have the engine room that we do with Lyons, Steen, Petrevski and Shepherd in there working together, and I think it gives some really good exposure for some other players to see how they go about it, considering they've been at the elite level. But Paige herself had a really positive year last year and went to work in the off-season, and you can start to see the dividends from that. But I think the one thing that they do really well together is they work off each other, and it's not just one of them always dominating. They're always having influence in the game, and they're starting to learn that players and oppositions are going to start to come after them. So how do they can work together to ensure that if one of them's getting shut down, how do the others still get opportunity and bring the others in the game off the back of it?
Now, you've got West Perth on Saturday as your next opponent. It's a vital chance for your side to bounce back against the Falcons unit, who are shaping up as a top four contender after they had a good win over Peel Thunder and are just really starting to link up at both ends of the ground as a good football side. How do you see them as opponents this coming Saturday?
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for us to go against probably the informed team in the competition outside of the Swan Districts team, and they're flying. They obviously had the wood over us in round one, and we've taken some really good learnings from that. They've bolstered their team since with a few injured players coming back in, and they're starting to find that mix of the youth talent they've got with just some mature age players that sort of hold their system really well. So Deggers has them in really good shape, and we're looking forward to the challenge ahead, that's for sure.
Will be a great battle in the box alongside West Perth coach Clinton Degebrot. It's going to be a great clash on Saturday, Baker, we really appreciate your time here on Around the Waffle. It's going to be a massive clash on Saturday in your efforts to bounce back from the defeat on the weekend to South Fremantle. Thanks for your time, Baker. All the best.
No worries. Thanks, Paul. Cheers.
So there it is, Baker Denneman speaking earlier today after their 16-point loss to South Fremantle. We'll talk about that game and those WAFLW games in a little bit more detail after the break here on Around the Waffle. Stay where you are, and as the great legend Hayden Ballantyne always says, the Waffle games, the Waffle and the WAFLW are always a winning experience for fans young and old.
Take it from me, great things happen at the Waffle.
Valentine rides and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick to kick at every break. The Waffle is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the Waffle on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
Yes, this is Around the Waffle, your go-to waffle podcast in 2026. Paul Persic riding solo today, as you may see and hear. No Ethan Roth, sadly. Scheduling conflicts have sadly seen him sidelined for this episode, but he will be back next Monday to recap the last lot of games before the state game break, and it is May 16th. Make sure you get your tickets now. You do not want to miss this one. Trust me, these interstate showdowns, they bring the best out of everybody, and they bring the passion out of you, the fans, and you've got it. Make sure you show it by showing up to Sullivan Logistics Stadium on Saturday for a huge triple header. We've got the talent showcase, the WAFLW versus SANFLW, and then the Waffle versus the Sandful. You do not want to miss it. Trust me, it is worth the entrance ticket alone on May 16th at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. Let's recap all the WAFLW action for round 6 of the ATCO WAFLW season of 2026. And it started on the Friday night at Good Grocer Park, East Fremantle's first of 4 straight night home games. They went up against Perth. And Perth, as much as they were desperate, to their credit, they only trailed by a goal at half-time. They would only add 2 behinds for the entire match. And East Fremantle, through their hard-running midfield and their penetrating attack inside forward 50, they were able to get it done by 17 points in the end, 6-2-38 to 3-3-21. Star of the show, of course, was Noah McNaughton in her final game for the Sharks, because 3 days later she got picked up by the Fremantle Dockers. But what a way to finish. 2 goals and 22 disposals in her final game in Sharks colours. Talk about going out with a bang. She certainly did. But she had great support all night from her counterparts in midfield. Mackenzie Webb, brilliant. Amber Canane, sensational. Jay Flynn, also exceptional. And the forwards really were backing up that great work, especially McNaughton, who played all round the ground. A very versatile player. Obviously spent some time as a small forward. Recently upped her game as an inside midfielder, and the results proved wonders, no doubt about that, with 2 goals to go with her 22 disposals. Brooke Repiccioli also held her own in the ruck against Molly Warren, but what really was the difference in the end is that East Fremantle had more run around the ball, and that really was how East Fremantle really got out of second gear and went into top gear in that second half. But what is to be known, they didn't score in that last quarter, so there is still a bit of a chink in East Fremantle's armour, and David Eames will really want to get to work on that side of their game this week, because they've got a couple of big tests coming up in between the state game bye and then after the state game bye to see if they can contend for a spot in the top 4. There was expectations that they would struggle this year with a lot of their players going out of the side. Ash Gomes crossing from east to South Fremantle. But so far, it's looking okay. They're not in the 4, but they're fighting for a spot in the 4, and they have been competitive to their credit. Perth, meanwhile, they weren't without their fair share of positives in the end. Holly Britton with 24 disposals, Isla Baldwin with 29, and Isabella Shannon continues to hold her own in the midfield without a lot of success from her supporting cast with 28 disposals and not a lot of presence up the forward line, and that really is going to be a concern. Ty Strickland kicked 2 of Perth's 3 goals in the end, but really had to shoulder most of the workload. And as a key forward, you can only do so much without your supporting cast, and that's going to leave your forward line exposed. And East Fremantle more than just exposed Perth's forward line as one that's just lacking several key options. Molly Warren, pure tap-out ruck, and she continues to show why she can be one of the premier rucks in the competition. Okay, her follow-up work needs a bit of improvement by going after that loose ball, getting in the coalface and working on that contested ball part of her game, but her pure tap-out ruck work is absolutely brilliant. 38 hit-outs, not a lot of them to advantage, however, so no doubt Steph Waddling and the coaching staff will certainly have a look at what Molly Warren's game needs to be improved on over the weeks ahead. She is capable of advancing her game to the next level. But East Fremantle, good team performance, very even spread of contributors all throughout the ground, and they got the job done in the end by 17 points on the Friday night. A lone game on Saturday, and it was at Lane Group Stadium, and it was West Perth taking on Peel Thunder, and a huge start by West Perth, 7-1 in the first half, paved the way for a massive 65-point win over Peel Thunder. It was the first half that set up the victory. They just never looked back, didn't they, West Perth? They were brilliant. Especially Lexi Strachan with 26 disposals, Cara Dejalewski with 25 hitouts. She was a real enforcer in the ruck. And Madison Dodd often has flown under the radar. Doesn't get a lot of the plaudits for her work as a defensive midfielder, but she was magnificent with 18 and 14 apiece for Sabrina McKinnon. But along with Kayla Vanden Heever, Sabrina McKinnon also was the major threat up forward. She kicked 4 goals in that superb win. You talk about, Dejalewski, Arabella Nelson, Tali McVie also were brilliant. Miley Hines also provided great service in the forward line with a couple of goals. So did Zoe Huggett. She's finally starting to, find her feet as that key forward at West Perth after years at South Fremantle. Again, Peel Thunder relied heavily on Chloe Wrigley. That's really been their shell as far as their game plan is concerned. They're really going to have to develop a game plan that is going to really catch out their opponents, because all opponents in the WAFL, including East Perth, whose only win came against Peel Thunder in round 1, they're starting to work Peel out, and I think they already have. They often want to rely on Chloe Wrigley getting it from midfield into attack, and that's what showed again in that loss to West Perth. They had 83 more disposals. They had 33 less handballs and 26 less hitouts as well. So that is a real troubling sign for Peel Thunder. And if they want to improve, they're going to have to really develop their game a lot further, without the heavy reliance on Chloe Wrigley getting that ball from midfield into attack all the time without support. Having said that, To Ebony Bilsich's credit, she did play that role with 22 disposals. Layla Scott with 18, Charlie Fletcher with 12, and Kate Bartlett kicked half of Peel's goal. She had 12 with 5 tackles to go with her 12 disposals. So a serviceable effort for Kate Bartlett, and also a couple of other players, Ebony Bilsich and Chloe Wrigley as well. But again, if you're relying solely on that one player to provide that drive into attack, you're only doing so much until it goes wrong. It certainly went wrong for Peel, but it went right for West Perth in the end, winners by 65 points over there at Lane Group Stadium. Now, we spoke about this game in a bit with Baker Denneman, the Subiaco coach, but South Fremantle, gee, didn't they come out to play on Sunday at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, the first of the double-header that was there. And in the end, South Fremantle, thanks to a big third quarter, they ran out winners by 16 points, 5-7-37 to 3-3-21, and it was set up by Ash Gomes, who was magnificent. 26 disposals and 5 marks. That's one of her best games in 3 weeks. When you're looking at her form line, started off in the first 2 weeks very, very good, then just had a little bit of a lull, had a dip last week, and then went back up to her best this week. 26 touches, very effective. Kate Newson, good tap-out ruck work with 20 hit-outs. Ella Matthews and Natasha Entwistle also were the difference in the end. Shannon Pommersback has found some form up forward with 3 goals, and that really is a good sign that, you know, you've replaced one key forward with another key forward, and Shannon Pommersback could fit in that role very perfectly. Usually a very good kick for goal, and she was again with 3 goals won. For Subiaco, of course, they didn't really get into top gear in that game. They were held to 1 behind in that first quarter, and as spoken about with Baker Denneman, against opposition like South Fremantle and also East Fremantle, you really want to get off to a good start, because if they catch you off guard at any stage in the game, then you're going to be in trouble, unfortunately, and Subiaco found that out the hard way. Having said that, they did have a lot of positive contributions. Paige Shepherd with 31 disposals. Crystal Petrevsky, who, you know, has started out a bit up and down this season, but, you know, she found her way into some form with 28 disposals, still continues to show her physical presence around the ball with 7 tackles, and Lisa Steen with 25. It was those big 3 that shouldered most of the workload in the midfield rotation, but up forward there weren't many options to go with in front of goal. Baker Denneman also has positioned a couple of key forwards as that number 1 option. You know, talk about Sunny Key Peters, Olivia Vinci Sharp, but they didn't have a lot of opportunities go their way, and again, it shows they need to find an option up forward to replace Olivia Walmarans, who got picked up in the AFLW draft more recently. And South Fremantle's backline really showed that Subi's forward line still needs a little bit of work. And, of course, the Bulldogs got the points in the end by 16. And then the final match, which was the second of a double-header out at Sullivan Logistics Stadium on Sunday. And it was no real surprise in the end, especially after the hot start that they had. Swan Districts made it 6 wins out of 6. And they won it by 49 points over East Perth, 10-9-69 to 3-2-20. The game was really won on the inside 50s. When you're looking at it, 44-14 was the inside 50 count in the end, and it clearly illustrates how dominant this Swan side is. Think about it. They're the second youngest list in the competition, and they're 6 wins out of 6. You want to talk about an impressive statement. They have made it early, regardless of the opposition. Since that round 1 win against Claremont, dare I say it, that has been the yardstick result in which Swan Districts have measured themselves by. And again, it shows with Jamie Henry, who sadly didn't get picked up in the AFLW draft tonight. What more does she have to do to get onto an AFL list? She showed the AFLW recruiters that they've missed out on something really big. 28 disposals, 4 marks and 7 tackles. And I reckon the AFLW selectors, if I was you, you'd be quivering on your knees to miss out a quality player like Jamie Henry, who has been on fire, averaging 35 disposals a game this season, and they did not pick her up in the draft. You'd have to be stupid not to pick her up, because she was sensational. Lauren Quaife in the ruck, obviously back from suspension, and she picked up where she left off, 24 hit-outs and 16 disposals. Her follow-up work, tremendous. Ashley Sharp, you know, didn't have a lot of possessions, but was very impactful in each of them. And that's what you need. You need impact in your side, and Swan Districts has got plenty of that. For East Perth, obviously held to 1 goal in that first half, only had 14 inside 50s, and they really spent a lot of time in that defensive zone. And when you've got over 20 disposals from your defence, from nearly half of your defensive six, you know the ball has been that way all throughout. And sadly, it wasn't a happy tale for East Perth. Layla Ferns, Lucy Greenwood had over 20 disposals, but the ball was going into their defensive 50 almost the whole time. Steph Stack with 12, Taylor Suter with 3, Lillian Ninyette, who had the big test against Lauren Quaife in the ruck. She only had 12 disposals and 13 hitouts. East Perth overwhelmingly beaten in many areas, and safe to say it was a pretty ordinary performance, but they were in for a real tough afternoon all throughout. When you're up against the Swan District side that is, stinging after a grand final loss, and they're 6 wins out of 6 now, you were expected to, be in for a really tough day, and they were punished heavily in most areas of the game. So a great win to Swan Districts over East Perth, and winners by 49 points to conclude the round. Where does that leave the ladder? After 6 rounds of competition in the ATCO WAFLW season, ain't no stopping those Swans at this stage. 6 wins out of 6. Unbelievable. Then Claremont, 2 wins behind in second. West Perth up to third, on percentage ahead of Subiaco. Then East Fremantle just outside the 4 on percentage. Then come South Fremantle, Perth with 1 win, East Perth with 1 win, and Peel Thunder winless after 6 games. That is the ladder as it stands. Now, Ethan Roth, before informing us that he could not make it to tonight's episode, did do his role great service and cast the votes for round 6 of the ATCO WAFLW season. He gave 1 vote to Lexi Strachan of West Perth. Great service she provided from the middle. Jamie Henry, 2 votes. First time she hasn't been in the top 2 rung of votes this season, but she still played her role in midfield to great effect. Paige Shepherd in a losing side. She got the 3 votes from Ethan Roth. And for Noah McNaughton, a great way to go out from the East Fremantle side with 4 votes for her serviceable role on Friday night. Well, it was more than just serviceable. She made a big statement that she was going to get picked up by the AFLW selectors, and she did by the Fremantle Dockers. But she gave Rothy gave the top gun this week to Sabrina McKinnon of West Perth for her 4 goals. A superb performance by the tall forward inside 50 for West Perth. She really fired on all cylinders at Lane Group Stadium. Where does that leave the leaderboard after 6 rounds of the ATCO WAFLW season? Well, despite only 2 votes, Jamie Henry still leads the WAFLW Player of the Year. An astounding margin, 25 votes, 8 votes each to Paige Shepherd and Noah McNaughton. Now, McNaughton's in third, but that'll be the last time that we will see her in the WAFLW Player of the Year race. So effectively, in third is Sabrina McKinnon and Ruby Sargent-Wilson, both on 5 votes, along with Juliet Kelly. Then comes Becca Anderson, Claire Ortlip, Rakisha Nanup, and Sarah Viney. And how about that? About half of them are Claremont players. Simply outstanding, but Claremont stacked talent. There's no doubt about that. That is all the action recapped for you here on Around the Waffle. Before we wrap up, even though I'm riding solo today, we're still going to be pushing through with our top 3 plays of the week, May 1st to 3rd. Now, this first play comes in 2 parts. A particular Perth player who you'll know when you listen to the call with Ethan Roth, she kind of lost her way in front of goal. Did what Malcolm Blight did in 1981, but eventually she found her way again and channeled a bit of Jason Ackermanis. Have a look at this.
Through a hand. Can they get it back? Takes a bounce. Doesn't need to. Shows the ball as well and has missed. So you just have to laugh if you're her, because East Fremantle probably well within their right to give it to her there for showing the ball. Sigh of relief, to say the least, if this goes through, which it should, and it does. So, a celebration to follow as well. So,
sometimes footy can bring out the lighter side, but at least she did kick the goal in her second attempt. And how about the handstand? Eat your heart out, Jason Ackermanis. Now, Subiaco and South Fremantle on the Saturday night is our second play of the week here on Around the Waffle. And you just got to love a good running goal from centre into attack. Stefan Giro delivered. Have a look.
We go back in the centre.
Everyone's going to use it now, Jordan. You know that.
Giro takes a bounce. It takes a couple. Could be back-to-back goals here for South. Giro, he's got it. That is an EGT goal of the week contender from Stefan Giro.
Oh, brilliant stuff there from Stefan Giro with the left foot bursting through the middle, and from inside 50 slotted that one through the big sticks. That is one of the goals of the round in the WAFL, and well deserved too. And finally, You love a raking left foot, don't you? Now, Jarrah Hayden from the South Fremantle Cold side, he's got a deadly left foot, hasn't he? Have a look at this.
Foster Scherzer, and he can go off to the races here, Hayden. He can go inside 50. He could have kept running. But why would you keep running when you can deliver like that? He's kicked 3.
Precision and skill, especially with that left foot, it's what it takes to be a great footballer. Jarrah Hayden has got some great potential. So well done, Jarrah Hayden. Part of our top 3 plays of the week. That concludes the show. It's been a bit weird, one will say, having to host this one solo, but thanks so much for your company nonetheless here on Around the Waffle. It's been a pleasure bringing it to you. Of course, we'll have our usual preview show on Thursday. We're going on location to Claremont with Jack Schwartz, and we certainly hope you can join us for that, as well as our preview of all the big action from the weekend. Thanks for your company. You can check us out on the Around the Waffle YouTube channel and on our socials, as well as our social channels on Facebook and Instagram, and your podcast providers as well. Stay tuned as well for the state game coming up on Saturday, May 16th. Big triple header, State Talent Showcase kicking it off. Then the Women's State game second on the schedule. And then, of course, the Men's State game concluding a big day of football. Tickets only $10. You do not want to miss it. In the meantime, have a great week. We'll see you on Thursday night for our big preview show.